after he made one of the biggest shots in NBA history.
Irving puts it up. Let's go!
The next 7 years of Kyrie Irving's career were a total fiasco. Since the 2016 championship, Kyrie remained a phenomenal player, a dribbling wizard who averaged 26 points per game and made 5 All-Star teams. But he nearly threw it all away. Irving's off-court actions made people forget that he's a basketball savant, and any news about Kyrie seemed to be negative due to his constant wars with the media, suspensions from the NBA, and falling out with his teammates.
And it hurts me sometimes when we have to sit up here to talk about stuff that divides the game. Now we got to answer for what this idiot has done.
It was unbelievable that one player could produce so much drama and force his way out of 3 different franchises.
You had Cleveland to exit. You had Boston, which was a mess. You had Brooklyn, which was a mess.
When Kyrie left Brooklyn, he was considered a locker room cancer, a ticking time bomb that could explode at any given moment. But then he landed in Dallas, and things started to change. In the 23-24 season, Kyrie embraced his role as a leader on a young Mavs team. He was saying all the right things, and most importantly, he stayed on the court, nearly winning another NBA championship. This is the rise, the fall, and the rise again of Kyrie Irving, and how the most unorthodox player in the modern NBA went from a team killer and PR disaster to a well-respected NBA superstar. And before he started believing that the earth was flat, Kyrie was always a basketball prodigy. Both his parents are former basketball players, and Kai started dribbling a ball as soon as he could walk. Kyrie was so obsessed with basketball that he dribbled and shot all the time, writing on his wall that he'd become an NBA player one day.
In high school, well, I played all the time. Winter, fall, summer, spring.
But there was one big problem: his size. As a freshman in high school, Kai was only 5'7" and super skinny. As a sophomore, he reached 5'10". But despite averaging 29 points per game, nobody knew about him because he played in the lowest division in New Jersey. As a senior, Kyrie reached his current height of 6'2", and with the increase in size, he became unstoppable. By this time, everybody knew who he was. Irving was named High School All-American, co-MVP of the Jordan Brand Classic Tournament, and was unanimously ranked as a top 5 high school player in the country. Kyrie was wanted by every major university, but he accepted the scholarship from Duke. And in his first 8 games for the Blue Devils, Irving was a strong candidate for NCAA Freshman of the Year, averaging 17 points and 5 assists per game, while shooting an insane 54% from the field, 45% for 3, and 90% from the free throw line. Unfortunately, he suffered a foot injury that sidelined him until March Madness, where he helped the Blue Devils reach the Sweet 16. And even though Duke lost to Arizona, Kyrie was by far the best player on the court, and easily the most talented player in college basketball. At the 2011 NBA Draft, the Cleveland Cavaliers had an easy choice, selecting Kyrie with the first overall pick. And immediately after the draft, Irving reached out to a famous trainer, Michael Lancaster, who pushed his ball handling into a new stratosphere. Lancaster made Kyrie keep his dribble so tight that he could swat away opponents' hands like flies while he was handling the basketball. They also worked on his footwork and balance, and all that hard work paid off.
But Kyrie's one of the only people, he'll let you play. He'd rather play defense on offense. He starts his point of attack, and he lets you dictate how this is going to go.
Yep.
Kyrie immediately made his mark in the NBA. He was just 3 votes shy of becoming a unanimous Rookie of the Year. In the next 2 seasons, he made the All-Star team each year. He became the All-Star Game MVP, as well as the MVP of the 2014 FIBA World Cup. His ball handling made him a superstar, and his victims ranged from Brandon Knight to Kobe Bryant and the entire USA Olympic team. But despite all the individual success, one thing was missing. The Cleveland Cavaliers were a mess, and Irving wasn't even close to sniffing the playoffs. But then, it all changed because of one man, LeBron James. In his first season back in Cleveland, LeBron led the Cavs to the NBA Finals. But due to injuries to both Kevin Love and Kyrie, the Cavs lacked the firepower to fend off the Golden State Warriors. In the 2016 season, Irving struggled with minor injuries throughout the regular season, which hampered his stats. But when the playoffs rolled around, Kyrie was finally healthy, which allowed him to showcase the full splendor of his talent. The Cavs lost just 2 games on their way to another NBA Finals, and Kai averaged 25 points on 48% shooting and 46% for 3. But then in the NBA Finals against the 73-9 Warriors, the Cavaliers were losing 3-1, a deficit no team had ever recovered from. Cleveland's dreams of winning the title seemed doomed, and they needed a miracle to survive. And that miracle was provided by LeBron and Kyrie, who played the best game of his career. Both Cavs scored 41 points, but it was Irving who hit all the toughest shots, with a mesmerizing array of layups and off-balance jumpers over multiple defenders. Irving made 17 out of the 24 shots he took, including 5 for 7 from 3, and was a game-high plus 20 in his 40 minutes on the court. The Cavs then took Game 6 at home, but then they had to win Game 7 on the road. The championship game was incredibly tight, and for virtually forever the score was tied at 89-89. And then it happened.
Irving and Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good! Kyrie Irving from downtown!
The Cavs won their first title in franchise history, and the first for Cleveland after a 52-year drought.
I've never seen 2 guys play at that level
For 3 straight
games. It's the
games.
craziest thing I've ever seen. Like Bron and Kyrie were just on. Like we play well, they just play better.
But then the Warriors added Kevin Durant, which was the ultimate basketball cheat code. And while the Cavs managed to get to the 2017 Finals basically unchallenged, they couldn't match up with the Bay Area juggernaut. Kyrie was phenomenal throughout the playoffs, especially in the finals, averaging 29 points on 47% shooting and 42% from deep. But Cleveland lost in 5 games, and that's when the first signs of trouble creeped in. Irving was tired of being considered a Robin to LeBron's Batman. Kai wanted his own team, where he was the guy.
You know, when he first came back, I was 22, 23, so I was just a young kid trying to help Cleveland patch up their relationship with him. I got drafted the year after, so when I came in, it was like, are you gonna be better than LeBron? That was my first question when I got into Cleveland. So it was mixed emotions the whole time that we were competitors, and then when he came back as my teammate, you know what I mean? Came back to Cleveland, that's his home.
So, without any warning or consultation with LeBron, he requested a trade from the Cavs. Cleveland didn't have to trade him since he had 2 years left on his deal, and in retrospect, they shouldn't have traded him. But like many other sports teams, they didn't want to deal with a disgruntled star.
I asked for a trade because I was looking for something different. I was a man of my word. When I went to the organization, I sat the higher ups down and said, look, I know y'all have future plans. Tell me right now. They told me their future plans. I said, look, this isn't for me.
And 1 month after his trade request went public, Kyrie became a member of the Boston Celtics, a lopsided trade that brought back an injured Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder. Well, this whole process was weird, because nobody ever wanted to leave a team that made 3 straight NBA Finals. What was even weirder was Kyrie's media appearances. While he was still a member of the Cavaliers, Kyrie broke out the infamous take that he believed the Earth was flat.
But on that podcast, I was just really like, man, what's going on within our world? And just a whole bunch of truth and conspiracy. I was just like, whoa, this is too much for me. And then I come out and say that, and then the reaction it got.
In September 2017, Kyrie appeared on a radio show where he doubled down on his flat Earth stance, claiming the whole thing was part of a social experiment he was conducting.
When I started doing research on my own and figuring out that there is no real picture of Earth, like there's not one picture of Earth.
Kyrie later backed down from his comments, but that was far from the end of his controversies.
I told him he's trolling us. I don't know. I don't get it.
After an injury sidelined him from the playoffs, Irving was forced to watch his team get beat by LeBron and the Cavs in the 2018 Eastern Conference Finals. And before the next season started, Kyrie seemed happy and confident that he could win in Boston, famously proclaiming that he intends to re-sign with the Celtics in the upcoming year.
You guys will have me back. I plan on re-signing here next year.
But then, it all went sideways. Following an early season loss to the Knicks, a reporter wished him happy Thanksgiving. Kyrie clapped back and said, F Thanksgiving. Because he's part Native American on his mother's side, it's understandable why Kyrie might not be a big fan of Thanksgiving. However, his delivery of that message was far from perfect, and he later apologized on Twitter. Then, in January of 2019, Irving threw his teammates under the bus, saying that the young guys on the team don't understand what it takes to win a championship.
But Kyrie Irving, as the leader he wants to be, must figure it out, and this is not the way to do it.
A few days later, Kyrie admitted to the media that he actually called LeBron James, apologizing for his immature attitude when they played together in Cleveland, and seeking advice about his leadership struggles in Boston.
I had to call Bron, and tell him, I apologize for being that young player that wanted to everything at his fingertips, and I wanted everything to be at, my threshold. I wanted to be the guy that led us to championship. I wanted to be the leader. I wanted to be all that, and the responsibility of being the best player in the world and leading a team is something that's not meant for many people.
By doing so, Irving essentially bashed his teammates again, and then admitted he made a mistake coming to Boston in the first place.
That was a step for me just to move forward in my life. It takes a very, very strong individual to, replay a lot of the experiences that you've had, a lot of anger that you had built up, that where you didn't address the situation and you allowed it to fester, and then it was just combustion. Then you realize, man, I didn't have to deal with that the same way I dealt with that. I didn't have to go about it that same way.
A few weeks later, when the media asked him about his upcoming free agency and his proclaimed intent to re-sign with the Celtics, Kyrie simply said that he doesn't know anybody's shit. They should ask him about that on July 1st, and that he'll do what's best for him and his family.
At the end of the day, I'm going to do what I feel is best for my career, and I don't owe anybody.
And despite Kyrie playing to his usual standards and making the All-NBA second team, it was clear that the team chemistry was seriously derailed. During the second round of the playoffs against the Bucks, Irving played the worst playoff series of his career, after which he delivered another disastrous press conference. After reporters asked him about his shooting struggles following a Game 4 loss, Kyrie responded in the worst possible way.
Yeah, who cares?
He then capped off this fiasco by saying that he should have taken 30 shots instead of 22 because he's that great of a shooter.
The expectations on me are going to be sky high. For me, the 22 shots, I should have shot 30.
In the deciding Game 5, the Celtics lost by 25, which surprised nobody. Kyrie shot 6 for 21 from the field in the game and was arguably the worst player on the floor. He finished the series shooting just 35% from the field and an abysmal 22% from three. After this series, and all the comments he made during the year, the Celtics were happy to see him go in free agency. In just 2 years, Irving managed to piss off and ruin the plans for 2 different franchises, and his next move was something that all NBA fans saw coming for months. At the 2019 All-Star Game, while still a member of the Celtics, Kyrie was seen talking extensively to Kevin Durant, and the whole world suspected they were in cahoots to plan their free agency together. And what the world suspected, Kyrie confirmed in July of 2019, signing a deal with the Brooklyn Nets together with Durant. In his first game for the Nets, Kyrie scored 50 points, becoming the first player in NBA history to score 50 in a team debut.
Irving. Oh no! Oh yes!
Despite averaging a career-high 27.4 points per game, a shoulder injury forced him to miss all but 20 games of the season. In the offseason, both Kai and KD got healthy, and they got together on a podcast where Irving made headlines once again, and not in a good way.
We don't really need a coach. Tell me a player in the history of sports that never needed coaching. That might be one of the most ignorant things I've ever heard a player say.
When the 2021 season started, the Nets fans finally saw the long-awaited debut of Kevin Durant, who had been nursing an Achilles injury he suffered in the 2019 NBA Finals. To make things even better, Brooklyn also traded for James Harden early in the season, and the trio of KD, Harden, and Kyrie promised to be the most unstoppable offense ever. With so much talent on the floor, defenses were forced to pick their poison, and at all times, one of the 3 best scorers in basketball was open. However, injuries to all 3 stars limited their time on the court, and the superstar trio played just 8 games together in the regular season. On top of their injury troubles, Kyrie was still at war with the media, calling them pawns on social media. But for the first round of the playoffs against the Celtics, all three Nets All-Stars were healthy, unleashing the full wrath of their offensive talent. Brooklyn won that series in 5 games, scoring an average of 124 points, with an insane 130 offensive rating, easily the best rating in a single playoff series. Kyrie, KD, and Harden averaged 85 points per game, shooting a combined 53% from the field, 45% from 3, and 92% from the free throw line. To rub in the Nets' victory, Irving stomped on the Celtics logo, which wasn't appreciated by the Boston fans. However, in the second round against the Bucks, both Kyrie and Harden got hurt. Still, if KD's toe didn't step on the line during the potential game winner, this story might have been different. But it did, and the Bucks won the series in overtime of Game 7. And despite the disappointment, everybody believed the Nets' super team would win the title in the upcoming years if they managed to stay healthy.
We didn't think we could beat the Nets in full power. That was a team that we thought we might not be able to get past for 3 or 4 years.
But that's when the real fun began, and the Kyrie factor came into play. The world didn't know it yet, but Harden, KD, and Irving would only play one more game together for Brooklyn. Before the start of the 2022 NBA season, 99% of all NBA players participated in the mandatory vaccination to combat the pandemic. Only 3 players refused: Michael Porter Jr., Jonathan Isaac, and Kyrie Irving. Porter and Isaac were out for the season due to injuries. However, Kyrie was perfectly healthy, but due to his stance, he was unable to play in all home games because of New York City's vaccine mandate. This led to the Nets GM Sean Marks removing Kyrie from all team games and practices, resulting in Kyrie missing the first 2 months of the season.
I was not expecting a mandate to be brought down in a way that it wasn't going to allow me to play at all. I had the opportunity to play away games still, but there was no plan in place. There was no vision of like how it's going to work for our team, and I think that really impacted not just me, but a lot of people. So just had to sit in that hot seat for a little bit and deal with it, man. Life of a martyr, bro.
However, in late December, despite remaining unvaccinated, the Nets announced that Irving would return to the team and play in away games, in a decision largely influenced by the various injuries to Brooklyn's roster. On January 12th, the Nets' super team trio of Durant, Harden, and Irving finally all suited up in an NBA game again, reminding the world of how potent their offense could be with all 3 superstars. The Nets demolished the Bulls 138-112, and for a moment, their hopes of winning a title looked great again. But it would be the last game they ever played in the same uniform. Kyrie missed the next 2 games because the Nets played at home, after which KD got injured and was ruled out for 6 weeks. And that was the final straw for James Harden, who was getting fed up with Kyrie and the uncertainty he brought to the team. So the Beard asked for a trade, seeking a more stable situation. And during the February trade deadline, Harden got his wish, getting traded to Philadelphia for Ben Simmons and Seth Curry. Overall, the Nets' Big Three played just 16 games together, with a record of 13-3. However, just a few days before the Harden trade, New York Mayor Eric Adams announced that New York City was lifting its vaccine mandate for municipal workers, meaning that Kyrie would be able to finally play in all games. However, the damage to team chemistry had already been done, and Harden still insisted on getting traded. And just 3 days after Adams announced the news, the Beard was gone, and the Nets received 20 cents on the dollar.
Playoffs right around the corner, so we got to fast track into getting used to each other. But I'm excited. I think everybody got what they wanted.
And because Ben Simmons didn't even play a single minute for the team, which was another drama in its own right, the Nets' defense was atrocious, and Brooklyn's offense wasn't as potent without a third superstar. Somehow the Nets made the playoffs, but in the first round against the Celtics, Brooklyn got swept, and their title window closed faster than anyone could have predicted. In Game 1 of that series, Irving flipped off a fan, adding fuel to the fire of hate he was already getting in Boston, plus a $50,000 fine he received from the NBA.
Well, we've never seen that from you this season, where you are running down the floor flicking people off.
It's the first time you actually caught it because it's a big-time game. I respond in different ways. So if somebody's going to call me out of my name, I'm going to look at them straight in the eye and see if they really about it. Most of the time, they're not.
A 4-0 loss was a slap in the face and a big wake-up call for the team everybody believed was going to win the championship. However, that wasn't the end of all the chaos. In the offseason, Kevin Durant, who was clearly tired from all the Kyrie and Ben Simmons drama, asked for a trade, even though he still had 4 years left on his contract. Durant then went a step further and demanded that the team either fire Steve Nash and GM Sean Marks or let him go. It was arguably the most aggressive trade demand by any player in NBA history. Thankfully, owner Joe Tsai held his ground, refused KD's ultimatum, and didn't succumb to the pressure to trade him. Against all odds, both Kyrie and KD started the 2023 season for the Nets, and they were joined by Ben Simmons, who finally made his debut for the team. But when the season started, the Nets were an abomination. Simmons looked like a shell of his former self, the Nets had zero on-ball defense, and their offense relied on KD and Kyrie isolations. With a defense that couldn't stop some college teams and a barely average offense, the Nets lost 6 out of their first 8 games. Both Kyrie and KD clashed with coach Steve Nash, after which Nash got fired. But that's not all, ladies and gentlemen. Oh no. The Nets' on-court problems were just a minor thing compared to the shit show they produced off the floor, with the main protagonist being Kyrie Irving, of course. Kyrie tweeted an anti-Semitic message after a documentary he watched, and while the league and the Nets gave him a chance to apologize, he failed to do so.
Can you please stop calling it a promotion? What am I promoting?
Put it out on your platform.
But I'm promoting it? Do you see me me in front of
putting it out there,
the
people
title?
are going to say that you are
Yeah, I put
promoting.
it out there just like you put things out there, right?
Finally, the Nets suspended him for 8 games, and the whole world was left wondering, what is wrong with Kyrie Irving?
If you take Kyrie Irving's brain and you put it inside of a bird, the bird is going to start to fly backwards.
When Irving finally returned, Ben Simmons and other role players caught some steam. And against all odds, Brooklyn started winning games. At the midpoint of the season, they had a 27-14 record, the second best record in the Eastern Conference. By then, Kyrie wanted to secure a contract extension with the team. Considering all the BS he had pulled in the last 5 years, Irving was viewed as a ticking time bomb who could explode at any moment.
They're not winning anything with him in Brooklyn. And I think in Brooklyn, they're starting to understand that.